So let's talk to Relic in Texas first.
Okay.
This seems like an interesting call. Relic is asking, is it possible that the true religion just hasn't been invented yet? Relic, welcome back to the show.
No problem. Nice to hear your voices again. Yeah, it's been a long, rough week for a lot of people, so just my condolences to all those involved.
Yeah. So, what is this question? I'm intrigued by it.
So, as you know, I have my own belief system along with my wife. We both practice in our own personal thing, and things have been coming up to where we're not sure if there is but a lot of religions have a lot of baggage, and I think that goes without saying. A lot of them are outdated or antiquated, or there are some that are downright harmful if you look into them a little too deeply. And I still genuinely believe that religion does have a place in society.
Okay.
And I am honestly curious as to, is there a way that a religion is going to be invented that is compatible with society in a way that is not detrimental to anyone in any way?
You know, I'm sorry, it sounded like you were responding.
You seem to have something to say. Go for it.
I do. Relic, why does that matter? Like, do you feel that we need to have religion in society, period? Or, like, why does that carry that weight for you? If anyone can hear the lawnmower outside, we apologize. We do not have control of that. Relic, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was trying to think of your question real quick. I'm not trying to sound like an apologist, because I'm not someone who thinks that people cannot live without religion of any sort, and that there is no pathway to truth outside of religion. But I am on record saying that I believe that it fast tracks a lot of positive things for a lot of people. And I do genuinely believe that people, through religion, can genuinely lead incredible lives, just the way anyone who subscribes to any particular ideology can live incredible lives.
So it sounds, is there anything unique about religion there? Because it sounds like you're bringing up qualities that people are getting out of religion, but then also recognizing that those qualities are found elsewhere. Like, do you think that a world, some ideal world in the future where there's a religion that is perfectly compatible with is that a better world than a world that has not that?
I believe so.
Why?
Because I believe that people have that tendency or that place of needing answers. I'm not talking about like answers as in like scientific, but I mean like theology in general answers a lot of philosophical questions. I'm not talking about on the scientific side of things. I'm talking about philosophy. I'm talking about on that spectrum, people traveling through religion to help answer and cope with existence itself. And I'm not saying that like my belief system is a way of coping.
Sure.
But there is, I do subscribe to that.
I would
that
have
idea that like.
I would have.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm excited. I want to jump in because you said things that I want to respond to talk to you about. So Relic, well, first, do you want to finish your statement? I apologize.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
All I was trying to say is I subscribe. I've brought up a book to y'all before by Thomas Ligotti. It's The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. I do subscribe to the idea that like existence itself comes with pain. Existence itself comes with a knowledge that like things are not always going to be okay.
Right.
There's always going to be an aspect of your life that is tragic, and everyone's end is tragic. There is no happy ending to anyone's life.
Sure.
And I believe there is a purpose to this.
I do too.
And I understand that. And my purpose is geared towards helping others and helping people cope with that existential pain.
Did you decide that purpose, or do you think that you have no choice over that purpose? Like, are you an automaton that is hoping to kind of waddle your way into the purpose that's given to you, or do you think that you're deciding what, brings you joy, and what do you think would be the best use of the life that you have?
It's a bit of both. I believe that my purpose, I believe my purpose was set in front of me by Freya. But I also believe that this is something I genuinely wanted before I ever knew Freya.
Okay. I know that there's another path I can go down with that, but I would lose my first point, so I just want to make sure that I make it. When we look at science, because when we're talking about philosophy, there can be a lot of navel gazing, but there are some pretty solid things that we can come to understand and better understand the world around us. And so I'm going to make this comparison. We'll see if it works. If I did not know about the germ theory of disease, and I said, I don't know about it, I want to learn about it, and somebody says, well, it brings me comfort to know that, God chooses who gets sick and who dies. I feel like that stymies the growth towards, exploring and learning what the actual reason is. If someone were to say, I want to think about and I want to talk about what is purpose and what is value and how do things get purpose and value and what does that mean to us and how does that impact other people? If somebody said, well, God did it, I feel like it stymies that conversation in the same way. I feel like, yeah, there's a utilitarian piece of, oh, well, at least there's an answer, but that doesn't mean it's a good answer. And that doesn't mean that answer gets us any closer to a better understanding of the world around us. It might just be, that roadblock or a detour that we now need to get around so that we can talk about the issue.
Can I push back on this real quick?
Yeah, I'm pushing you. Go for it.
Okay, so I believe it's a leap in logic from where I'm going from to where I believe that there is philosophical answers and questions like the germ theory of disease, for instance. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible leap of logic because I'm not saying the scientific practice of the germ theory of disease. I'm talking about the jumping from taking philosophical value out of religion versus what we scientifically apply in society. Because I believe that nature in itself is separate from religion.
I entirely agree. I believe religion is a human construct. That said, I don't know, man. I don't think that it's particularly useful. Like the way you're talking about it is a very utilitarian one. And if I were to talk about, if I were to join you in that conversation, I'd be saying, okay, well, look at other sophists. Look at people who have relied on sophistry to kind of dupe the masses into whatever their bogus form of philosophy is. It was useful for them. They got benefit out of it.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. That's absolutely not the same thing because you're jumping from you're jumping from what is the purpose and meaning of life mm-hmm. to I think that I find comfort in believing that germs don't actually exist and God chooses who lives or who dies. That's not the same thing. One is an ignorance to science and scientific concepts in itself. The other is based in philosophy and talking about that level of things. Like any religion that I would advocate for would be a religion of actual tolerance, actual peace, and actual pursuit of knowledge. Now, science in general is done through consensus and has constantly vetted itself and proved itself over and over and over and over. Now, I'm not talking about taking religion and then immediately suppressing everyone into literary ignorance.
Oh, I wouldn't accuse you of that. I'm just thinking about the utilitarian piece of it. And I know that I've been talking a lot. V, you sound like you want to jump in.
So I know you guys are kind of on one kind of pathway here, and I don't want to deviate too much, but I'm still kind of mulling on something you said, Relic, which is it can kind of fast track a lot of good behavior in people to be part of a religion. And I agree with that. I also agree that it can fast track bad behavior. It's a system, essentially. So that would be
Right.
like saying, are highways morally good or bad? And we can talk about, well, highways get you where you need to be faster. And highways also cause a lot of accidents. And it's not the morality of the highway, it's a reality of the system of highways that results in both good net positive things and net negative things. And that's going to differ person to person. The person who can take their daily commute 20 minutes faster is going to see it as a net positive. And the person who gets into an accident is going to see it as a net negative, right? So I don't think it's useful to frame this in terms of like good or bad or true or not true. I think it's useful to say religion is a system that humans have created that enables behavioral shortcuts. And those shortcuts can get us to really good things, or those shortcuts can get us to really bad things. And the thing that I care about is not if you're using religion as a system for that necessarily. It's how are you critiquing those shortcuts and how are you making sure that they are not leading you to bad things? So in a situation where we find or invent or come to understand a true religion that hasn't been invented yet, I don't think it is possible to have it be an all-good force in the world. I don't think that's possible. I don't think any system of thought or worldview is 100% good. I think that what we need to do is look at the system and see, is this a system that gives a net benefit to society? And how do we make that happen? And how do we safeguard against it going off the rails or allowing other ways of thinking to, come to the fore and do harm? So I have a problem with the premise of the question because I don't think one exists or will exist that is perfect. But that's not unique to religion. I don't think there is a society that is perfect or a political system that is perfect. So that's why I always go back to epistemology, right? And how do we know what we know? How are we making these decisions? And how are we interacting with these imperfect systems? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. And actually, that is exactly what I was trying to get at. You're hitting the nail on the head on where I wanted to go with this. And I'm sorry if I worded the question incorrectly or if I got the premise wrong or however I did this. But this has been weighing on me, and I just needed to go ahead and bring it in. No system has a perfect, there is no perfect system. You're right. It's not just religion, it's ideology. There are good and there's pros and cons to every ideology, every philosophical way of teaching or thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Religion, and I'm not saying that religion is the only way to fast track yourself. I'm saying that when you are taught these things, when you are given a view of the world, in which you are conveying as much truth as you can, not necessarily in the actions of the book, but in the teachings of it, in the lessons themselves, and then you safeguard against where those teachings could go wrong. Because I would argue that even in Buddhism and all these religions of peace in general, there is a way to take them wrong. There's been multiple cults that have gone off track and have gone incredibly hairy and horrible things have happened. You've even had a couple of followers of those talk on this show recently.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe that should be safeguarded against. And I don't believe any particular religion has a safeguard. I believe it's a weapon without any safety on.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. The safeguarding has to come from outside of that religion, right? So you can use this religion as a tool.
It could.
But I don't think that it is possible to have a religion that self-polices. I think that in order to make sure that a religion is not doing harm and that those safeguards have been set up, there needs to be something external to that religion that is monitoring it, whether that's individuals participating in a religion but bringing in things like rationality or logic or what have you, or, systems where religions engage with each other and critique each other and grow from that or what have you. I think that ultimately the concern for me becomes when it becomes insular and you are expecting a system to make itself correct.
Isolated onto itself.
Right. That's where cults tend to go wrong. And that's where fundamentalist religions tend to go wrong as well. I am right because I am right because I am right. Right. What are you using the standard by? Oh, the standard that I have invented within the system, that is right. So it is going to have to come from the outside. And that's where the interesting question is for me. You can use any religion you want.
I'm sorry.
Go for it. Sorry.
That's not the interesting question to me. Like, I see where you're going pragmatically. I do. But at the same time, let's say we develop that. Let's say we develop a perfect religion that makes society, by perfect I mean is effective at bringing about world peace. Sure. Ending hunger, ending, a lot of the fixable sufferings of the world. Does that make that religion true?
It depends on the teaching of the religion itself.
Well,
because not every religion follows under the lines.
Good call.
Oh, sorry.
No, good call. In my mind, when I say religion, I'm specifically talking about, supernatural appeals to explanations of things. So
exactly.
So I think that the effect, even if the effect was fantastic, that doesn't mean that any supernatural claims that were made would be true, no matter how pragmatically nice it was. And so because of that, I don't see that as any different from a great political movement. It's just an organizing of people. And that organizing of people, sure, it has all of those rules, but then at that point it stops being something that's unique about religion and starts more about how we would build a society.
Right, which I was going to say is where V was heading, and I'm not trying to detract from where you're going, Eric. No. To just cap that off, I believe that there is a way that a said religion in the future could lay itself out for governance, like for people to watch over and to make sure that it doesn't go insane. Because, like you said, that's when cults go wrong, is where they completely become an echo chamber, or they completely isolate themselves off and isolate their members from society.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that every religion that is out there right now has this problem to an extent and is almost terrified of letting outside governance guide it. They're so focused on trying to protect their core tenets, even though those core tenets could very well be improved upon, mm-hmm. that they just shut themselves off.
Yeah,
Look at the younger creationist movement.
So Relic, you're preaching to the choir. Yeah. Like we're right there with you. You don't need to give them more examples. We're on the same page. It just, where do we go?
Well, I think the next question, because I think we've determined that we are on the same page for a lot of this, mm-hmm. and practically what a religion would bring to the table would be similar to what any other cohesive loyalty building system that employs certain thought patterns or certain ways of viewing the world would bring. Now it becomes a question of, okay, but there's this element of ontological truth that hasn't been addressed, right? Mm-hmm. That would be what made it a true religion, is if it also happened to be true.
Yeah.
But that is going to have to be for another time, because we are running a little bit over. Relic, this was a really interesting conversation, and I would love it. I won't be here, but I would watch if you were to call back and then get into that ontological piece and be like, okay.
The ontological piece I could do. If you want to talk about the utilitarian piece, I'd wait until V's back.
All right. Thanks, Relic.
Thank you, Relic.
No problem. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Okay.
I would highly recommend people check out what's it called? There's a book, In Search of Divinity, and it is a book about how to harness the study of neurotheology, which is essentially what your brain does while you are interacting with religious concepts or practices, and uses that to build a religion. And it's a religion based on, hey, here is what your brain does while engaging with religion. Let's build a religion around what your brain does so that we get all the benefits of it, but there's no secondary supernatural element that we need to worry about clouding the rationality.
I don't know. That feels way too meta. Like it's almost like when you're talking about a placebo. You know, it works until you tell the person it's a placebo, and if you tell them it's a placebo, it's not going to be as effective. Or hypnotism. People are, you know, prone. People can be hypnotized when they think they can be hypnotized. And as soon as you tell them, you know, what it's about, they stop being able. I don't know how effective that would be.
We do have quite a number of people who call in regularly, and myself included, who do that regularly, where it becomes this thing where I'm going to go play with my brain for a little bit. I'm going to go engage in ritual and understand that what I'm doing is, you know, stimulating these parts of my brain for funsies, without needing to worry about that additional piece.
Oh, can we have that church with the giant, you know, for funsies, you know, just
like a really like graphic, like fingering of a brain as the motif.
No fan art, please. No fan art.
I will make that my profile picture.
Oh,
if someone
God.
makes
Tweet it to V. Don't send it to the show. I don't want to see that.